Okay, so we've got a lot to get through on day 2. Across the event, we've got 70 plus presentations and panels. So we did about 35 of them yesterday, and we've got another 35 or so to go. So I hope you had fun last night. If you were at the Fado House, or if you were off at some of the other events that were running. So let me just give a quick summary of some of the highlights from day 1. First, I think it's clear. It's all about the services. And what I found was quite interesting is several of the sponsors didn't present. They actually got the customers to present for them and show the services that are being enabled by their platforms. We had case study after case study of businesses running on telecom capabilities and doing really cool stuff that's driving business. So this is moving from, speculative discussions, capability discussions, to being very specific. Sebastian, in one of the breakout sessions, gave, I think, an archetype case study on why we do TAD Hack and TAD Summit. He moved from demonstration of a service at TAD Hack Mini in April this year to deployment that he announced in this event within 6 months. And that's exactly what it's about, is the hackathon's enabling you to play with the technology, to create new services, new capabilities, and because the platforms are open source, can run in the cloud, it makes it so damned easy to get this up and running. And definitely, the focus is far more than technology. The focus of TAD Summit is definitely on the business, and the business is being created through telecom app development. So they were just a few of the themes that came through for me through day 1 quite strongly. We've got a lot to cover, so I just wanted to do one last slide from one of the M-Poll surveys that we ran, and just to give Werner from Telenor, congratulate him for being the winner. Well done, Werner. But as you can see, it was a very close race. So I'd like to now ask Amos if you can come on down, and we'll get Amos set up, and we'll get the WSO2 presentation underway. There you go.
Good. Thanks very much. Morning, chaps and ladies. And hello, Colombo. Our whole team in Colombo is watching now, so hello, guys and girls. Good to be back. We were here last year, and I was here in a former role as the person running the WSO2.Telco Group API program. And at that time, we actually announced that we were going to open source the technology that we had built to enable that program. And the result is WSO2.Telco. So I'm going to give you a quick overview about what we are and how we came about, and what we're doing, and then some thoughts on APIs, telcos, business, and the future. So WSO2.Telco is a hybrid. It's a hybrid of telco experts who've been enabled and able to innovate inside the telco, and a pretty visionary open source middleware platform called WSO2. And the result is a new company, WSO2.Telco, or WSO2.Telco we call it, which is providing digital enablement for telcos powered by APIs. And I'm just going to give you a quick overview of how this came about and what we've done with it so far, and what we're planning to do with it. So APIs were positioned inside Axiata Group as an internal and an external enabler. So we kind of learnt the lessons. This isn't about setting up some separate digital services company and competing against the mothership. It's the opposite. It's about trying to find a way of making new business and embracing the digital age. So the idea that we came up with was to create a hub and then put a series of gateways into each of our telcos in order that we can optimize the process of engaging with the Axiata Group for outside organizations, and also continue to enable the local telcos doing their own business and embracing the same technology and the same capabilities that the hub enables. And the result is access to 240 million subs, getting on for 15 of large SPs coming on board with one contract, with one connection into the group. Around about 4 APIs, 4 core APIs that are currently exposed across the group. A wallet capability that's been deployed internally across 4 of the MNOs in the group, all powered by the same technology that we're now bringing to the market. Getting on for 400 BSS APIs exposed for internal use. 20% last year in one of our telcos of the large BSS CRs were fulfilled by APIs, right? So a massive saving in your traditional CRs for, large black box systems inside telcos. Getting on for 5,400 apps created using APIs. A lot of that innovation's happened in Sri Lanka, but we've got very innovative departments in the digital services teams across the group. 56 million API calls a month at the moment, just in Sri Lanka. Getting on for 12.5% of the dialogue customers using API-based apps. About 2,800 developers. Revenues increasing 20% month on month. In Indonesia, which is another very hot innovation center within the Axiata Group, a really unique collaboration between 3 telcos to provide a single interface for advertisers. And their SLA is 3 days. You can sign up and put an ad up on the channels with 3 large mobile operators in 3 days. And they deal with the secondary transactions that those ads generate, maybe a billing event or a location call or something more targeted. Axiata was the first group to launch Mobile Connect commercially, which is a GSMA initiative that was alluded to yesterday. WSO2.Telco platform was the first platform to actually produce a commercially available identity server for Mobile Connect. And we have a huge amount of interest in that from telcos around the world. So let's move on, hold on a sec. So this is a little film. If I can work out how to play it.
I am Ruandi Sanayaka. I am an entrepreneur.
I use IdeaMart to study coding and telco infrastructures.
We use IdeaMart platform to raise funds and help more children in Sri Lanka.
I track my sales force using IdeaMart.
I use IdeaMart for communicate to my students.
the reason I showed you that is because the catalyst for doing the API program within Axiata was actually based on the success of this business in Sri Lanka. It's about effectively getting people to believe that it's actually possible to do stuff with telcos. And one of the biggest problems that I had in my time at Axiata wasn't tech. The tech, net took about, I don't know, maybe 10% of the time that it took to put this out. The rest, 90% of the time, was process and getting people to buy into the concept that we could actually, as a telco, do stuff with a digital ecosystem as fast as a digital ecosystem can do it. So the reason I show that film is because that's one of the successes that actually triggered this whole thing. And a lot of the technology behind the Idea Mart stuff is the WSO2 technology. And that was originally open sourced. It was bought in. It was messed with for 3 years plus until we created a really robust, bulletproof system that we could roll out across the group. And it powers that Idea Mart thing, except for the very long-tail developer applications which are done by another service provider. So that is what's ended up happening at Axiata. Obviously, Axiata is still a very big client of WSO2.Telco, and they're also a shareholder of WSO2.Telco. What I'm going to do is just go through a couple of slides on why we exist and why we were even allowed to exist, if you like, from a telco's point of view. Why did they let us out and allow us to build a small startup effectively in the ecosystem? Our core reason for existing actually isn't tech. It is tech to enable smart business practice. That's actually our message. We want to abstract the technology. It shouldn't be an issue, and you shouldn't be reinventing the wheel. If there's something there that works, which is one of the good things about open source, then use it and make good business. Reduce opportunity costs, extract value, reduce CapEx spend. And the ecosystem is demanding that. So the open source movement and the ability for big enterprises to embrace that is moving on. Try and emulate best practices of the agile businesses, and obviously an API mindset does that. If you need to use it, if there's any possibility of using a service you've exposed one more time, make an API first, and then you save 100% of your integration costs the next time round. And obviously partnership. So all enterprises are realizing that they can't do everything themselves. So it consists of an API gateway. And the idea is to expose a bunch of services into this gateway, and then you can plug in a bunch of service providers and partner with services that you've exposed. So one of our core products is an API gateway, very powerful, probably best of breed, open source. It also consists of a hub, and that hub talks to gateways. And there's a very good reason for that, which I'll go through in a minute. So the Axiata Group have effectively deployed a hub where large service providers, global service providers, regional service providers can plug into and access all of the telcos through the one connection, the one contract. But each of the local telcos can still operate independently using the same code, same interfaces. So you've got standardization, and you've got flexibility, and you've got a reflection of reality. And this is where we're going with this. Because every time we do an integration with a telco, subject to contract, they can connect with another telco or the same service provider that plugged into one of the other telcos. So the idea is that you're creating a very flexible, loosely coupled ecosystem that is able to connect subject to contract, not subject to technology, not subject to standards, subject to contracts. All you need to do is work out what kind of business you want to do, and you can do it. That's where we're going with this. And the reason for that is that it isn't just tech. You've got to validate the tech. You've got to present business ideas that actually work with the tech. So why a hub gateway model? Because telco business is essentially local, and anything that's going to work at a local level needs to be localized. Developers, that understand local markets quite often are local. Advertising is local and locally oriented. Communications are. Regulation, critically, is local. Interoperability at a local level is going to therefore be important. Co-opetition is going to be important. Enterprise business is localized. Even the large global companies have local operations that tune their businesses to local. And critically, identity and data protection are local issues. And you need the ability to keep data I mean, certainly in Asia, things are moving towards governments locking down. So having a local gateway or a local hub is going to be really important going forward, even if you abstract some of the core sensitive data at a local level, and then you can use it in a wider context. And of course, smart cities are local. That's the nature of it. So there's a very good reason for having a hub gateway model. So how are telcos actually doing? Well, I mean, we know this information. Revenues are declining. We know that internet economy has affected the entire economy. And most operators really get that there's a problem. We know this. We know, that most applications actually use APIs. I don't think that's the right figure. Frankly, I think almost everything these days is using an API of one sort or another. And we know, stats keep getting thrown out that there's huge amounts of money to be made. And it could be 158 billion, Dean. But one way or another, we know that there's a lot of money to be made. But working with telcos is really tough, still is, right? They're not that agile. And it's primarily business process. Interestingly enough, right, the most agile part of a telco is their group marketing function. The people who work day to day fighting the other telcos in their same market, trying to beat them, tactical warfare, 3-month window, KPIs, they're very, very agile. They can drop $1 million, $2 million, $3 million in a heartbeat to do an advertising campaign to counter some product that some other telcos come up with. So actually they are very, very agile. But the bits that actually aren't agile quite often are the systems and processes behind the telco. And the reason for that is obvious, because they've got a lot of money being made, and a lot of people can't see whether or not there is money in the digital thing. This is where the problem is at the moment, is that validating the business case is really tough. What we're trying to do is to help that process by making it easier and quicker and more cost-effective to try. But at the moment, the opportunity cost is very high, integrations are way too complex, and the planning process is designed for large CapEx models, not for lightweight digital innovation. So unless you're big gorilla, you can't really engage with the telco. At least it's very costly to engage with the telco. So it's still primarily the domain of big gorillas. And what we're trying to do is to effectively get rid of that mindset. The jury's out in telcos as to how best to do it. So the tech boys are going to say, fine, let's just go off and do a BSS OSS transformation. We'll see you in 3 years' time. There's a middle road to this. You do need to do that, as telcos do need to transform, and they do need to go through long and thoughtful processes about core technology. But the beauty of abstraction layers, the beauty of API layers, the beauty of modern-day enterprise middleware systems is that you can actually expose the stuff that matters now. And the opportunity is amazing. Every single point integration you ever do with any service provider, if you did it as an API, you'd never have to do it again. And the processes behind that, 6 to 9 months of security and all the rest of the stuff you have to go through to expose that one service, which you do every single time you get involved with a service provider, you do once. And the interesting thing is that you're not messing with the core processes of the telco. They still have to run the SMSC, they still have to run the billing system and go for it. But now you've abstracted it into an API layer and you've got a governable, secure API, you can move. So in the end, this isn't about tech, it's about business agility. It's about people, it's about upskilling. It's about a mindset, I want to do business, I want to partner. And it's about smart technology. And that'll give you the value in the future, half of which we don't know. We just don't know. I don't know. I have no idea what's going to come 5 years from now. I'm amazed at what's come in the last 10 years. But if you're prepared for it, and you've got the mindset to be agile, and you've got the mindset to innovate, and you've got the mindset to fail, then you have a chance. Otherwise, you don't. So I suppose the core messages are, from a telco perspective anyway, you still need to enhance core revenues. They're still pressed for revenues, even though their margins are really good by most people's standards, they're still being pressed. You need to find new value. They definitely need to upskill. So one of the great things about the Asiata group was that there was an actual KPI for how many people who are non-telco that they could hire every year. That's pretty cool KPI actually, because that means that they're really pointing towards upskilling. and getting the people with the mindset to do the transformation. So APIs, if you can use it again, if there's a slight possibility of using that service again, expose it as an API first time round. The incremental cost is nothing, and you will then not spend that money again and that opportunity cost to integrate. The second is accelerate business process first. Do not try and change tech ops on day one. There's no way you're going to. They're not for changing. And there's a good reason for that, because they're still running the primary revenue generating mechanisms in a telco. So they're not going to move, and nor should they in some respects, because it's too valuable. So change business process first, and then make things possible, and advertise the fact it's possible, and promote the fact that it's possible, because in the end it's about belief. How many people have gone to a telco and met someone amazing, and you've come away feeling really optimistic, and then you get into the process, and 9 months later you haven't got anywhere? So it's about belief that it can be done. And that's why the internal enablement that our platform enables, and that Asiata has also managed to enable, is just as important. We've now got an API store. I say we, I'm not we anymore, but it's difficult sometimes because it's only 2 months old. But there's actually an API store for internal consumption of APIs. Internal. So the mindset is, let's have a look on the storefront and see if there's an API that does what I want for my business. That's a complete change, as opposed to, oh my God, I'm now going to have to go through a 9-month process to see if we can do that. Now I can go, can I do it tomorrow? Which is massive change, and it means that you can move much quicker. So where we are and where we're going for. So right now, 4 gateways and 2 hubs, and all of them talk to each other in Asia, right? So we're well on the way to potentially connecting 1 billion customers into this one system. That's the opportunity. That's the opportunity for everybody, right? So our view is, create your playbook, and then you'll get a great partner, because telcos actually are great partners. They are really good partners. The local innovation is a really important part of life. There's the global arm's reach stuff, where you go to an aggregator, and there's some really good companies out there doing it. But you've still got an amazing opportunity at a local level. And there's a really good balance there, because MNOs bring a lot to the table. They bring reach, they bring Marcom, they bring channels. And once you have partnered with them, they are really great partners. And the service providers or developers bring the agility, the innovation, and the service. And that's what we're going for. That's what we're going for with our model. So highlights. Have I got to go? I've got to go. There you go. That's the highlights of our platform. And that is me.
So time for one quick question for Amos. Just hang on a sec, John.
What would you consider your breakthrough moment where you got not developers, but the common person to use your APIs to develop their communications?
The common person?
Yes.
So, well, I think the pioneers in that particular area, you know, it was you know, the dialogue team, right? And I'm not sure. It's an interesting thing. I suppose one of their breakthrough moments just would have been a successful person who'd never coded in their life, coming up with the business and becoming an entrepreneur, having used those telco APIs. And you saw in the film, I mean, there were people who are, you know, not technical people, but they worked out how to use an API to communicate with their team. Right, and you know, teacher was a teacher there, right? And he was.
Well, what was that light bulb moment that you said, you know, I need to do this to get a common person with my APIs? I mean, what?
That's an interesting question.
Yeah, well, no, just to, because I know the background here.
Yeah.
They didn't use APIs. It was a simple web form. So you made it so easy, it was just point and click. Just like you have on your platform.
I mean, it's an interesting question, because it is a leap of faith, right? I mean, for a telco, which is this huge, great organization, it is a leap of faith to open up their core to anybody. It's a really difficult thing for them to get their heads around. And partnership at the level that we're now talking about, you look at any of the big organizations, you know, from TripAdvisor to Airbnb to Dropbox or whatever, they're just businesses built on APIs. Yep. That's all they are. But it's a big leap of faith. And the other thing is that we just don't know. I don't know quite how IoT is going to play out. But I certainly know that if we can connect to something, then we've got a chance, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So for the sake of time, let's take the discussion to the coffee break, because there is a lot that we can discuss on that.